This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, whatever we have learned on the SAML stuff, and then we are going to look ahead with the other SSO protocols today, and then finally we are going to have our accounts created on Okta today, and a little bit of introduction on Okta. So let's start the day. I'll just quickly share my screen. Just let me know once my screen is visible to you. Okay, is it visible?
Yes.
Perfect. Yeah, thank you. Okay, so just to have the quick recap of what we have learned, we have gone through the identity and access management introduction. We have seen what identity is, what access management is, and what are all the different domains. Then why do we need IAM, and how it works. This whole structure of IAM works. And then we have gone through like going into depth how identity management system works, how access management system works, some general terminologies on IAM, and then finally we started off with the like the authentication and the authorization stuff, where we understood what authentication is and what authorization is and how they are different, right? So like just to summarize these two, authentication is basically you yourself verifying who you are, and authorization is like you are trying to use certain set of resources and for which there are permissions, so you don't have access to all the resources. So maybe restricted access to certain set of permissions is we can call it as authorization. Then we started with the SSO protocols, in which we learned about the SAML, and I hope you guys would have gone back and revised a little bit on what SAML is, but like we'll just go through it once again. We discussed about different terminologies of what SAML is and what do that contains, like an identity provider who actually verifies your identity or who authenticates you, or a service provider who is like the services you're trying to leverage. We talked about that Google Amazon example, right? So Amazon over there was your service provider and Google was your identity provider. And what are all the different stuff we have in XAML, like a response, a request. Response is being request is being sent from the service provider to the identity provider. Response is being sent from the identity provider to the service provider, and that's how the handshake happens. And once that handshake happens, the single sign-on is achieved. So basically this was the flow we had for the SAML. So we'll just go through this flow once again, and then we'll start off with the OIDC stuff. So just to have that recap, we had the end user who was trying to use who was trying to get into the application finally. I mean, who was trying to log into the application. We had couple of flows, which was one was IDP initiated flow and the other was SP initiated flow. So whenever the user tries to log into the browser or to the to the application, he goes on to the endpoint URL of that application. Once he hits the URL, the service provider actually redirects it back to the browser, and then from there to the identity provider. That's where the SAML request is being generated from the service provider to the identity provider. IDP does its job. It will go on and authenticate and verify the user if the user who is trying to get into the system is the legitimate user. Once IDP is satisfied, the response is sent back from the IDP to the browser and then to the service provider. So this is your SAML response, and it goes to your ACS, that is your assertion consumer service URL. Because like the SAML response which the IDP is sending, that is an assertion. It's an XML document which contains all the information like the attributes, the authentication, and the authorization stuff. So once it goes to the service provider sees, and then the users can, if the user was authenticated successfully, then the end user can start leveraging the services of the application on whatever, like whatever was authorized by the IDP. So that's how the SAML flow works. And the thing is, like, if in case we have the the session created, then you'll see that if you'll have different applications, you don't have to log into the application. So if time permits, today we are going to see the real-time example of how SAML works with Okta. We are just going to integrate an application directly with Okta. But before that, I would like to go ahead with the OIDC protocol also, and also with the secure web authentication, little bit knowledge on both of them. And then finally, we are going to create your accounts in Okta. So please, I'll just show you how to do that, and I would request you all to please create it with me, because it would be easy for you guys to actually look into and see how this works. And if every one of you will be having your account in Okta, then you can do your practicals easily. So we'll try to do that today. So okay, so let's start off with what OIDC is. So OIDC is another, another protocol, which is like, which is an SSO protocol. Actually, before OIDC, we should cover OAuth, but like, there is no OAuth. Like Okta supports OIDC because OAuth is generally for, authorization purpose. We have talked about authentication and authorization. So Okta generally, works on the access management stuff. So it's like the OIDC is a layer on top of your OAuth. So you can think of it of like, on OAuth is your authorization protocol. Like SAML was an authentication protocol because SAML was trying to authenticate the user and verify the user and then let you in. So likewise, OAuth is an authorization protocol which checks like, what level of permissions the user has and accordingly lets you in. Now OIDC is a layer on top of that OAuth protocol. So it's basically a identity layer on top of the OAuth 2.0 protocol, and it allows the client to verify the identity of the end user based on the authentication performed by an authorization server. So like we have a flow over here. We'll just look into it, like what the flow, like what all identities or the terminologies we have in OIDC. Likewise we had in SAML. But you can think of like you have an end application to which you are trying to access, and you have an authorization server. So whenever you're trying to access or use an application, the request will be going to the authorization server. So that's what we are trying to convey here, that it allows the clients to verify the identity of the end user based on the authentication performed by the authorization server. So like your authorization server is there to actually verify you or authenticate you, and it helps you to, and also like if you require sorry, if you require certain information of the end user to be passed back to the application, then you can you have an API, and you can use REST API to send back or retrieve the information. So that's how the flow works in OIDC. We are going to see how exactly it works, but like from an high level point of view, like it comes up with an authentication layer as well. So that's why OIDC is an authentication protocol, and SAML is also an authentication protocol, but OAuth 2.0 was an authorization protocol. So it lets the now why OIDC came into existence, because like it lets the developers authenticate their users across the websites and apps without having to own and manage their passwords. And that what single sign-on tells us to do. Like that is exactly what single sign-on is. So for the app builder, it provides a secure, verifiable answer to the question, what is the identity of the person currently using the browser or the app that is connected. So like it helps us to it's like when we have to compare SAML and OIDC, both are both operate in a different manner. So there is nothing much to compare in between them, like which is more secure, or to which protocol we should go ahead with, because like they both are secure, they both operate in a different manner. So it's not like a like comparison like apples for apples, because like it's a different comparison. So both are good in their own way. Basically it depends on the requirements of the client or the end user, what he or she wants to leave, and accordingly the solution is proposed. So so basically, as I mentioned before, that it's the identity authentication plus the OAuth 2.0. So it's a layer on top of OAuth protocol, and that makes your OIDC protocol. OAuth 2, as I've mentioned before, it's only designed for the authorization stuff, that is the granting access to data and features from one application to the another. So that's what authorization is, right? So OIDC is a thin layer that sits on top of that OAuth 2 protocol, and that adds the login and profile information about the person who is logged in. and this will help us to establish a login session, which is often referred to as the authentication, and the information about the person who is logged in. So the person who is trying to leverage, or who is trying to log into the application, that person is your resource owner. Like just remember this terminology, that that person is named as the resource owner, which is called an identity. And now when authorization supports OIDC, it's sometimes called an IDP, because I've mentioned before that your authorization server is going to do that authentication part. That authorization server is going to verify whether an identity is a legitimate identity or not. So that's why you can call it as an IDP, although these terminologies IDP and SP works more on the SAML side. But if in case you just want to correlate things on terms of SSO protocol, so then you can think of your authorization server as your IDP for the time being. So since that provides information about the resource owner back to the client, so that's what. Um, Now it enables the scenarios where one login can be used across multiple application, and also known as the single sign-on. So whenever you're trying to, once you have integrated your application with Okta, and you're trying to log into that application, so you'll be able to see that application chiclet or the icon over here. And if it is an OIDC application, so if you click on it, you don't have to log into your application again. You can directly jump into the application because of the single sign-on. So that's how this OpenID works. Like this is just a quick background of what an OIDC is, although there are different grant types to what OIDC is. But I wouldn't like to confuse you, going ahead with all the grant types. For the time being, we are going to see the most used authorization code grant type. Grant types, if I have to describe what grant types are, so there are different ways in, like you have seen the flow of a SAML, right? So SAML has only one type of flow, okay? But in OIDC you have different types of flow. Like based on the requirement, there could be different types of flow in which the request is going to, or response we are getting, or the tokens are generated or something like that. So there are 3-4 different ways in which you can achieve all of this OIDC protocol. So but the most used one is like the authorization code grant type. So this authorization code grant type is mostly used for the web applications, and like for the mobile applications also, like the applications which you are going to be using on your mobiles or your iPads or tabs. So in on that also OIDC comes handy. But like there are rarely scenarios where you are going to have some other grant type, although you can have, like there is one client to client credentials grant type, which is basically for machine to machine authentication. Machine to machine authentication is like you don't require a end user to be verified anywhere. It's like an automated process, and at some point of time your system was required to be authenticated. So it was system being authenticated by another system, and hence we call it as machine to machine authentication, and that's where client credentials grant type is used. But like because if we'll go deep in every of the flow, then it will get very confusing, and you won't be seeing the flows in your day-to-day life when you will be working with Okta starting. So I would like to go ahead with that flow, which is actually very useful, and mostly you'll see this flow being implemented everywhere. So let's see how this flow works. So basically, OIDC authorization code grant type flow is like you have a user, and this is your web application which you are trying to access. You have an auto tenant, which is your authorization server, and then you have finally your API. Okay. So as I mentioned before, that if in case we are just talking, sorry, if in case we are just talking from regular web app to your API, this is just your authorization part. Now this brings that layer of, it sits on top of that OAuth 2.0, and this complete thing makes your OIDC. Okay. So what is it that, the OIDC is bringing into picture? So basically it adds a login profile or a login screen to your application. So if in case you add a login screen, so you'll be redirected to the application. From there, from your web application, because we are talking about the authorization code, and that's what the the grant type says. So there is a code which is granted or requested at the first instance. So your application is going to request an authorization code to the authorization server. Okay, so think of it like you are an end user. You are trying to use an application, say Google, or some other thing, or maybe Google itself. So you're an end user, you're trying to use an application Google, and now Google has its own authorization server. Okay, so Google will be redirecting you will be asking or requesting a code to Google saying, please help me with an authorization code. Now this request will be redirected to the login prompt. That's where you are going to enter your credential. So you have first gone to the login link. At that point of time, there was a request which was generated from the application to the authorization server. Please help me with the authorization code. Now since you are requesting for an auth code, authorization server says you first go ahead and authenticate yourself. You first let me know if you are a legitimate user. If I'm satisfied, if you are a legitimate user, I will issue an authorization code. But if I'm not satisfied with it, I will not issue any authorization code. So that's what is the first step. Like, you went to the application, you requested for an auth code, the authorization server redirected you back to the login prompt. Now you authenticate yourself and you have given the consent that I am the correct user. So the moment auth server realizes, okay, this person is the correct one, that at that point of time auth code is issued to the application. Now there is a concept of client ID and client secret over here. So whenever you will be integrating an application with OIDC, so there would be credentials generated. Like in SAML also, if you'll see, there was entity ID which was getting generated. Okay, so entity ID was your unique part, like your unique identity for both service provider and your identity provider. So is the client ID and client secret. So whenever a connection is created in Okta, right? So whenever you go ahead and create a connection in Okta, at that point of time, you'll see that there is a client ID and a client secret generated, which is unique for every connection created for OIDC in Okta. You cannot have two client ID or client secrets with the same value in Okta. Okay, so and like over here, when we talk, right, when we talk about SAML, so we say that we send our metadata to the application team, right? So because that's where the trust is generated, and IDP trust SP, that okay, we are good to go ahead with the authentication stuff and all. So over here, that trust is being generated using client ID and client secret. So what happens is, the moment you integrate your application, you give your client ID and client secret. Like if the application is integrated in Okta, you have to provide your client ID and client secret to the application team. So you may have integrated, like for example, Salesforce. Although it's a SAML integration, but let's take an example. You wanted to go ahead with the OIDC protocol, and Salesforce supports that. So you integrated the Salesforce application in Okta. Now a client ID and a client secret was generated. Now you have to provide this client ID and client secret information back to the Salesforce team. They have to make sure that they configure this, because the moment the request will be going back to the web application, at that point of time, they should have the client ID and client secret with them, because the combination of auth code, client ID and client secret is something which is going to be again verified by the authorization server. And if the authorization server feels that this is the correct information which is being provided to me, then only you will be provided or access issued with the tokens. Okay, so I'll just repeat myself again. I know it's a little bit confusing, but let's try to understand again. And if in case you are having doubts with regards to this flow till the point we have covered, please interrupt me in between. So let's take an example of that. You have an auth code. Now see, auth code is something which is being granted only if you are a legitimate user. Like you're just going to go ahead with your credentials, your username and password. The moment you enter your username and password, at that point of time, the authorization server will validate if you are a correct user. If it is satisfied that yes, you are a correct user, it will grant you, or it will issue you a authorization code. So that's what authorization code means. Okay, now there is a concept of client ID and client secret. So the moment you integrate an application with Okta or any other access management tools, so at that point of time there is a client ID and client secret generated for OIDC apps. Now, what this client ID and client secret is, because see, if you're talking about an IDP, right? IDP is your access management tool like Okta, Ping, or any other tool. So how are these tools going to understand, like, because they are going to have many applications, no? It's not just going to be one OIDC application integrated in Okta. It would be thousands of applications, OIDC applications integrated in Okta, right? So how will Okta come to know that I have to authenticate or I have to validate this particular application only? There could be 5 instances of Salesforce integrated with Okta. So there has to be a unique value for every integration, right? So for every connection you are creating in Okta or any other access management tool, there has to be a unique value associated with it. So that unique value for OIDC is your client ID and client secret. So this is like your credentials for OIDC, and this has to be provided back to the application tool. They are going to use this set of information in their manifest JSON file, like whatever server file they have, on which they are trying to get or achieve this SSO done. So they are going to save this thing. So the moment you are being issued with the auth code, you have client ID and client secret, and these three things will be going back to the authorization server. Now, since because if you are integrating an OIDC application in Okta, then Okta has its own authorization server, because Okta is your IDP over there, right? If you are authenticating it with Google, then Google has its own authorization server. So at the point you go back to the authorization server, your application will be going, no? Because the auth code which was being issued by the authorization server was given back to the application team, like to the web application. So now you have the now the web app, this particular application, this has the authorization code, the client ID, and the client secret. Now how do they have the client ID and client secret? Because the moment we integrated the application on the IDP side, we provided them back with the client ID and the client secret. Okay, so that's how the web app has all the three things now. The only thing the web app does not have was the authorization code. So that's why in the first instance only, web app told the authorization server, please help me with the authorization code, and which was granted only when the user was authenticated successfully. So now web app has all three things: authorization code, client ID, client secret. Now this goes back to the authorization server, and authorization server will validate. Now how will authorization server come to know that this is the correct client ID and client secret? Because when we integrated the application in Okta has its own authorization server. So if in case like an application is integrated in Okta, then authorization server itself is generating those client ID and client secret. So authorization server knows, like what are all the different client ID, client secret, and auth code it has granted to all the different application. Okay, so there would be no auth code granted, no same auth code granted to different application. Okay, so so that's why these three things becomes your composite key, or the combination which you have to which will be validated by the authorization server. Now it will validate it, and if it feels that this is the correct set of information being provided by the application to me, it will grant you the ID token and the access token. Okay, now like think of it like that you are going to a fair. Okay, so there is an entry ticket, and then you enter into that fair. You have to purchase multiple things. You want to buy something, or you want to go ahead and do some rides. So there are two types of tickets, right? So and one is an entry ticket, which is your you have to take a ticket while you have to just go into the fair. You don't have to do anything, but just to go into something, you need a ticket. So that's your ID token over here. And then you have to access certain resources, like you want to buy something, you want to do something else. So for that access, like you'll be buying different tickets. If you want to go ahead and do some rides, you'll be purchasing a ticket for that. So that is your different ticket, right? That is not going to be covered under your entry ticket, which you purchased at the very first instance. So over here, that is your access token. So so let's define the ID token and the access token. So ID token is basically that token which verifies your identity, like which justifies that who you are and why you have been entered into this application. And now access token is something which you are trying to say that, okay, give me client, give me users first name, give me users last name, give me users email. Now why is it, why do you require this? Why will because this is some sensitive information, we don't want to give this to you. So that time access token is granted. In that access token you are being given that permission that, okay, you are allowed to access these resources. You cannot access everything. If you can, then you are a super admin. But for example, I'm talking about that access token is containing the data, what all things you have access to. Now you will go to an API. I mean, if in case you know API, very good. If in case you don't know API, it's an application programming interface. So it's kind of, you can think of like data flows from an API and stuff like that. So like if you want to fetch certain things, so you can do it through API. If you want to post certain things, like update certain things, you can do it through an API. So let's not get into the API topic, but what I wanted to help you understand was, like, think of that API is going to give you the information. Okay, very simple. So you are going to request the data with an access token. You're going to go to the API with an access token saying your API will read, okay, this guy has this permission, and I can grant him whatever he is requiring. If in case API understands that he was trying to, he's trying to ask me about maybe job location, but he doesn't have access to this, so API will give you an error saying that you're not authorized to view this thing. So that's how it works, like so you're once you get the ID token, you are into it. But if you want to leverage something, or if you, so at that point of time access token comes into handy. Although if you are not leveraging any of the resources, ID token and access tokens are exactly same at the first instance. Like if in case you are not doing anything on the API stuff, then your ID token and access token, they are exact replica of each other. But now if you're trying to ask something from the application, that application is trying to get some information about the user, so at that point of, that is something being provided by the access token, and that's how your API gives back the response to you. So I'll pause off for a moment over here, and if you guys have not understood it, I can repeat it again, but if in case you have any doubts, just let me know. Okay, I mean, again, like, if in case if you feel that it's not, clear, because I know it's a little bit complex thing, and, generally it's not very clear at the first go. If you're, if you're seeing this for the very first time, it's not, very easy to digest this thing, like, how it works. But if in case you have, very good. If in case you won't have, we'll just repeat it again. Also, I would request you guys that, just go ahead and read about this thing a little bit when you are, like if in case you get some time today. So like 10-15 minutes would be more than enough for you to understand this, that how, what is OIDC and what this authorization code grant type do. You are going to get many things on Google about OIDC. Please don't get into all those other grant types like implicit or client to client credential. Like first get this thing clear, okay? And if you're 100% sure that you know what is it, then you can go ahead and read about other stuff. But like for the time being, just focus on this, because this is the most important grant is going to be used everywhere. Okay. Okay, so I'll just repeat it once again, and make sure that you guys understand. If in case, if you again if any one of you has any query, we can just discuss. So basically, as I've mentioned before, we are going to have four identities over here. One would be your end user, one would be your application, one would be your authorization server, and finally the API. Okay, so in this particular instance, like since your OIDC is going to bring that layer on top of your OAuth, so this part is your OAuth only, and this layer adds that stuff of authentication, and that's why this becomes your OIDC. So the user is going to go to the login link, and the moment the user goes to the application will redirect it to the authorization server, and the authorization server will be, it will be requesting an auth code. So the moment the application requests an auth code to the authorization server, the authorization server will ask the application, you go ahead and authenticate yourself. I'm not going to give the auth code just like that to you. So the authorization server will redirect you back to the login page. The moment you are redirected, you'll enter your credentials, your username and password. If you are a legitimate user and authenticated successfully, you will be, granted an auth code by the authorization server to the web app, to the application. Now we discuss the concept of client ID, client secret. Since the applications integrated in Okta, they are being, generated with a client ID and a client secret. So the moment you integrate a application, these two things are being generated on its own. You don't have to do anything to generate them. Like, you just have to integrate the application, that's it. Now once this set of information is generated by Okta, you provide this set of information back to the application team, and they have to configure on their server, on their application, wherever they have to. Okay, so once they have configured this, now the application has got three things: authorization code, client ID, client secret. Okay, now application will go back to the authorization server with all these three things. Authorization server will validate, okay, these three set of, like, this is like a composite key, or the unique set of information which can only be available for a particular application. So it will validate, okay, it says yes, that yes, all of the information provided by the web app is correct. So at that point of time, it will grant you ID token and the access token. Now ID token is something, which is just allowing you to get into the system, and access token is something if you want to leverage certain things. So, like, think of it like that, this is your entry ticket, ID token, and this is your, that different rights or anything you wanted to do in a fair. So this is that thing. So now, you have an ID token and an access token. So if you want to purchase something, go ahead with your access token. If you just want it to be in the application, then your ID token is more than enough to let you in. So that's how the auth code authorization flow works. And yeah, I mean, if in case you have any doubts, just let me know now. Okay, then I'll take that as a no. But if in case, like, if you guys go through it today, then also please, don't hesitate to come up tomorrow, or today itself if you feel like, and we can discuss this concept again. So I'll just move on to the next topic. I mean, the OIDC only, like, a little bit on the ID token. So it adds like two notable identity constructs to the OAuth token issuance model. As I mentioned before, ID token, the delivery of which from one party to another can enable a federated SSO user experience for a user. So this is like a little bit technical terminology, but, like, an ID token is something which is, kind of generating a trust between your authorization server and your application. So this will, help you to be logged into the session. Okay, you don't have to log into the application again and again. That ID token is going to, serve that purpose of single sign-on. So, like, for example, you have a session already created with Okta. So if you have the ID token, at that point of time, your ID token will allow you to be in. So if you purchase a ticket and you have that 8 hours of time, you can be in the fair or you can be out the fair. So you don't have to purchase tickets every time, right? You can just, show that ticket to the person outside, and he'll let you in every time if you are in that allowed time. Like, yeah, maybe 6 hours, 8 hours, 4 hours, 3 hours, whatever it is. So if you don't have to purchase every time, you can show the ticket that I have purchased it, and you can go in, you can come out. So that's what ID token is. And API is something, which I've mentioned. It is just there to, help you with the information of the user. It could be user information, or some profile information. So basically, and that information which is being provided to the application is through a access token. So that's how it is. So please remember this thing. This is important, that OAuth 2 was not an identity protocol. It's an authorization framework, because OAuth is just helping you to achieve the like just allowing you to understand. There is no login prompt, there is no login screen, there is no concept of that you have to authenticate yourself first and then an auth code will be generated. It's just an authorization code flow. If over there you get a pop-up saying that grant access, so if you click on that, then you are being generated. But OAuth works in a different manner. It's like an authorization framework, it's not an authentication work. So OIDC is your authentication protocol. So SAML was your authentication protocol, OIDC is your authentication protocol, OAuth is your authorization framework. Okay, so the that's how it is, like because this helps you to achieve couple of things, both the identity authentication as well as authorization stuff, because OIDC sits on top of the layer of OAuth. So OAuth is helping you to achieve authorization, and like if in case you bring in that OIDC stuff, so that helps you to achieve authentication also. So you can play around a little bit of with permissions also, and that helps you to achieve both the things. But primarily uh, OIDC is your authentication protocol. Okay. So if in case you are, clear or clear with the SAML and OIDC now, so we are, going to look ahead with the next, that is the secure web authentication. SAML and OIDC, they are the general, I mean, they are the general SSO protocols. It's not something, related or pertaining only to OKTA. But now if you're talking about secure web authentication, this is something to do only with Okta. Like, you won't find this secure web authentication anywhere in any of the other access management tool. This is something an Okta has come up with, and this has nothing to do. It's not actually a single sign-on protocol, to be honest. Like it serves the purpose of single sign-on, but it doesn't serve what a federation is, or that trust is, or stuff like that. It doesn't do that. It's just a workaround to certain issues which we might face with many of the application, and hence Okta has come up with secure web authentication. So I hope you guys are clear with SAML and OIDC stuff. Would request you to please go ahead and read about these two protocols a little bit, and because they are going to be the most important stuff you'll be doing in Okta in the application integration. And so if you are comfortable with these protocols, you'll feel more, you'll get that confidence that you know Okta much more. So just go ahead and read about these two protocols. If in case you have any doubts, just please come back and we'll discuss those things. So okay, so let's do start off with the secure web authentication. As I mentioned, it's just an Okta technology. It's not something being generalized or being used everywhere. So it is just an Okta technology that provides single sign-on functionality to the web applications that don't support federated protocols. Okay, so what are federated protocols? Federated protocols are your SAML and OIDC. So like federation, what is federation? Federation is generally a trust being maintained between two parties, right? It could be external parties, it could be internal parties, but like it's generally a link between two different parties. Okay, so there could be many applications which doesn't support this functionality, or which doesn't support this federation thing, and that's where the secure web authentications comes handy. So like as I mentioned that the other like these federated protocols are SAML, WSFed or OIDC. Although we don't use web service federation much in Okta, and hence we are not going through it, but WSFed is also one of the SSO protocol. So in secure web authentication, what happens is that administrators can set the credentials for the application, or the end user can enter a specific username and password. Okta keeps those credentials for the applications inside a secure store. Okay, so encrypted with strong 250 AE256 encryption. And after setting the credentials, end users only need to authenticate with Okta, and then they can sign on, single sign on directly into the application. Okay, so now I'll try to explain what this means. So basically, your admins are going to set some credentials for the application. So for example, you're trying to log into a Salesforce application. You go to the login page of the Salesforce application. There are certain things which you will be able to use username and password, and then enter or submit button. Okay, from that like your username and password, you need to make sure that you are getting that there is an ID associated with every field. Like if we talk about front end, right? So there is an ID which is associated with every field. So you need to get that ID value for the Salesforce, and you need to pick that value and give it to Okta. Okay. Now Okta, what will it do is that, and for the very first time when you're trying to log into the application, you have to enter your credentials manually. Okay. You have to enter your credentials, and now Okta will actually go ahead and save those credentials. Okay. So in an encrypted format, like it's a very strong encryption, that is AES 256. It's a very strong encryption, and Okta themselves cannot decrypt it. It's just there is a hashing, like if I'm not sure if you guys know what hashing is, but hashing is like like there would be encrypted password, and that will be linked to different IDs. So like no one can view it, and like it's totally secure. So that's how it works. So basically what Okta is going to do is that, because you have got those username and password ID values, no, so it is going to save it on Okta side, and now when you will enter the credentials, that is your username and password, Okta will go ahead and enter your that username and credentials to that particular set of fields which you have stored in Okta. I mean, what I'm trying to help you understand, like, let's go to the Salesforce page once. Okay. So if we go to the Salesforce page, right? So yeah, so here we are. So this is that field I'm talking about. So if you go and inspect now over here, like you have an ID which is associated, like this is your username ID, right? So this is your ID which is associated, and same goes for this as well. If you go and inspect, like there is an ID that which is your password, which is associated. Now you are going to use these two IDs in Okta, like so, and then you're going to use your credentials for the very first time. You don't have to do anything on the Salesforce side for secure web authentication, nothing. Not because this is not federation. This is like only one way. This is a workaround for a federation. In federation, we have to do configurations on both the sides, that is on your application side or on your service provider side. But over here, this is just a workaround. You might have noticed that in SAML, we were saying that metadata needs to be configured on both the sides, that is on your service provider and your identity provider. In OIDC also, we told that you have to give the client ID and client secret, and that needs to be like configured somewhere on the application side. So every, like in the situations where both the parties are doing certain work, that is like your federation. Over here, secure web authentication, you just have to do some configurations on your IDP, that is on your Okta side, and you don't have to worry anything or do anything on the application side. Okay. So what is going to happen is that you are going to enter your credentials. Suppose your application is integrated with this information, like you just have to give this information, and then you'll be there would be a connection created in Okta. Now when you're trying to log into the application, you have to use an Okta browser plugin. Now what is an Okta browser plugin is, it's a Chrome plugin, actually a Chrome extension, which allows you to store the credentials in this AES 256 encryption. So basically whatever credentials you enter, no, that are being encrypted by the Okta browser plugin, and hence you need to use it. So your secure web authentication cannot work without Okta browser plugin. So so we are going to see this, like in depth, like how it works. Although it's a very simple protocol, nothing much to do, and Okta themselves don't recommend it. But if in case, like you don't have any workaround, so it is at least more secure than you entering your credentials every time, and because it helps you to give the functionality of single sign-on. So as I mentioned that the moment the application is integrated, you enter your credentials for the first time on Okta side, and the moment you enter your credentials, Okta will come in to this application, and it will automatically fill in your username and password over here, and it will automatically click on this login button, because that's why we are fetching these IDs. Okta will understand, and we will be giving this URL also. So Okta will understand, okay, I have to go to this URL, I have to go ahead with this username, I have to go ahead with this password, and then click on the login button. So the moment all of this is done, you are actually going to be, logged into the application. So that's how it works. Like this is kind of a workaround only. This is not a federation being created, but like it's a more secure way of authenticating yourself. The reason being because there is still a session created. So if you are into Okta, it won't you don't have to log into the application every time. So Okta will do all of this automatically, and that's what secure web authentication is all about. So there are different ways, like admin can set the secure web authentication credentials, or user themselves can enter their username and password. And that's how the, like, you just need to get that credential values from the either user gives or the admin gives. That's Okta is not interested in. But like it, Okta allows you to gives that liberty to you to actually verify, I mean to give that option to you that admins can set or the users can set. But once Okta gets those credentials, it will go to the login page, and automatically, like a bot, you can say fill these things, and will click on submit. And since you, if you have an account in Salesforce, then like if I try to log in, right, so and I give my credentials something something, so and if I try to log in, if I have my account, so I will be logged in, right? So automatically, if you have your account in Salesforce, so and you are using those credentials in Okta, so you will be logged in, right? So that's how it happens. So yeah, make sure that we have to give the application credentials. It should not be your Okta credentials, because it's going to be authenticated over here, no, Salesforce side. So like Okta credentials won't be, like you will be authenticating yourself with Okta to create a session, but then to get into the application for the first time, and that's where your credentials will be stored with Okta. So that time you have to give the application credentials, not the Okta credentials. So that's it. Like like if in case you have OIN, we are going to talk about what OIN is. But there are many secure web authentication, that is like the standard connectors available for SWA. That's what we call in Okta. So you can leverage them or also create a custom connection in Okta. So I mean, if in case this is not clear, although this is like not a very strong SSO protocol, but if in case it's not clear, you can come up with your doubts. And also we are going to see this, like practically, maybe tomorrow, that how it works, like like actually showing an integration with Okta, that how secure web authentication works. So but yeah, I mean, till then, if you guys have any doubts, please come up now. Okay, if in case no, that's good. If in case yes, please go through it, and I would request you again, please, come up with doubts, because I also want these sessions to be interactive. And if in case you have doubts, I feel that you'll understand more. But if in case you genuinely don't have doubts, then it's very good. But if in case you have doubts and you're not coming up with those, then I would request every one of you to please come up, so that things are clear, and then you'll understand Okta much in a much more better way. So now, I would request you all, let's start, with the creation of a developer account on Okta. And, it's not a very huge process. So, you can just come up with me. I'll just paste this link on our chat. Also, maybe Rakesh can help you with this information about you know, the I can share the slides, and he can help you with this information. You can, view it directly from here. But I don't know. Okay, okay, okay. So you guys can go to this link, and from there you'll be able to log into the page. I'll just show you guys from to where you're going to be going from here. So okay. So since I already have an account over here with Okta, so I might not be able to show you to you guys, but this is like okay. So if you try to sign up or go to this URL, right, so you have to go over here. Okay, and you have either you should be having your work email with which you can sign up, or you can just for the time being continue with the Google. So that's what I did. Like I have just used my Google account to create it. Once you use your Google account, you will be able to log into the application of Okta. So this is a free trial version. It won't be available lifetime for you. It's going to be only available for the next 30 days. So if you are creating your account today, you are not going to be able to, it's not something that you all will have your accounts available for the next 30 days. It will you will have, I mean, you will have it only for the 30 days. Sorry, you won't have it available for your lifetime. So what we can do is, like I would like, if in case like our sessions are not completed within 30 days, so I don't want that we don't have the environment. So there's an option, I can add people from my account only, and from my account if I add people, so you will be getting an activation email, and I will make you guys the super admin, so you will be able to see the same screen what I'm able to see. Okay, so, and if in case like after 10 days one of you can add other people, and that way we can have it, like if we are five of us, so we can have it available for at least 50-60 days, right? So if that is fine with you guys, then I would request you to please share your IDs with me, and that way you will also be able to see how do we add people here in Okta. And we can just add it, and you guys will get an email, and you can confirm that you've got, and you can just activate your Okta account. So anyone who who wants to go ahead and give me his ID, and I'll add it. Hey guys, are you there? Anyone, please, Pranjal, if you could help me with your ID. I think you are not audible, guys. Am I audible?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. Can you help me with your ID, please?
Okay.
Gmail ID would work.
Can I tell my Gmail ID?
Yeah, yeah, that will work.
Is Sukanya.
Okay, just please confirm if I'm writing the correct name, okay?
Okay. Last name Gaddipati. Gaddipati.
GADDI,
Pati.
correct, right?
Yeah.
Okay, can you help me with your email address?
Sukanya.Kalyan. Kalyan 13 at
Okay,
Gmail.
okay. So basically, like right now we are trying to add a person, right? So we see that we are able to view these three fields, right? Like your first name, last name, and your primary email. So if in case like by default your username and the primary emails are same, if in case you want them to be different, then you can change it from here manually. But like the moment you are going to add this, you will be getting the same email over here, and these are all the mandatory fields. Like you cannot have a user created in Okta without the like your first name or the username or stuff like that. So once you enter the basic information, although there are going to be many other attributes in Okta, like by default Okta provides around 31 attributes for every user, but that is something not necessary. Like this is not, that is not something which needs to be entered right now. You can update it from your Active Directories or LDAP directories or any other directory, but for the time being you just need to update that information from like while creating, you just need these informations to be created. Now if I can create Okta groups, we are going to talk about Okta groups, and I can directly associate people with Okta groups over here. Currently you will see that we only have one group created, which is everyone, and this is like a default group. I cannot do anything to this group. This is like a default group which is created. So uh, but we can create our own, we can create our own groups and add people over there. So currently we are just going to see this thing, and so groups concept is not there for the timing, but like if in case you have certain groups and you want the person to be directly added, like for example there is an Okta training going, I create a group saying Okta training, so I can directly add Sukanya in that Okta training group, so it will directly add. I don't have to manually go to the group and then add. Okay, so but I don't have any group, so it's not showing me that option to add it. And if in case like this particular group is on, so the moment I'm going to create the user, automatically Okta will bring that user in everyone. This is like the default group in Okta. This will be containing all the users. Like if you have 1 lakh users, this everyone with group will be having 1 lakh users. So we don't do anything. It's like for the Okta only. So, and password is something I can set because I'm an admin, or I can give an option to the end user that you only go ahead and send it. Okay, now I
Okay.
will just click on this send user activation email. So the moment I click and save it, Sukanya, you will be getting an email on your this Gmail ID.
Okay.
So you can just go ahead and activate it. Until the time you do it, I'll just add it for the for Pranjal also. So
I
Pranjal,
got
can
the
you
email.
perfect. Pranjal, can you help me with your full name?
My last name is Nerurkar,
Can you please
N-E-M-E-R-U-R-K-A-R.
type if possible? Sorry, what is it? Can you please type it in the chat if possible?
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So we have your account, and again, you will also be getting an email. So maybe you guys can confirm once you get it. Oh, yeah. So right now you'll see that your account is in pass, like for both Sukanya and Pranjal, you see that your account is in pending user action. Now why is it in pending user action is because as an admin I have set you guys, yeah, like the I have asked you guys to go ahead and create your, I mean to like I have already I selected set by user. So you need to go ahead and use your change your password, or set your password. In that you would have gotten an activation email, right? So from there you have to just go ahead and activate your account until, and while you are activating your account you'll be prompted for a password, and you might be prompted for MFA, not for the time being because the policies are not implemented, but you'll be prompted for your password. And then once you set your password, yeah, the status over here will change to active. So let's see, like if that is happening. And for me this is like in a one time mode, is because every time I'm trying to log in is from my Gmail ID, like I get that option sign in with Google. So that's why, like I'm not actually using my Okta credentials. I haven't set my password anytime, so that is the reason, like I don't get that uh, thing. But like once you are done, please let me know, and we'll see the change of credentials over here. So, Kanya, were you able to activate or complete your credential stuff?
Yeah, I'm doing it.
Okay, okay, perfect. Yeah. So if you guys see your status now, right? So both of you are in the active status now because you both have set your password, and you are in the active state. So I've made Sukanya you as a super admin. I'll make Pranjal you as well the super admin, and then you will be able to see the same screen what I'm seeing over here. So, sorry, if you go to over here, like these are all the different tabs which we'll be seeing every tab one by one in detail. But like for the time being, if you go to security and admin status, so from here you can just add, a person. So I'll just add you, Pranjal. And the super admin is like the highest privileges a person can have in Okta. So that's why I'm giving you the highest privileges itself. And once I add you, so if you guys now try to see in right, so I think Pranjal, you might have been onto this screen first. But now if you'll just refresh, you'll get this option of admin. And once you guys click on this admin option now, so at that point of time, you'll be redirected to over here. So you can just, get to go to the dashboard, and that's where your Okta will start popping up. So like if you guys can just confirm if you are able to see the screen, so I think will be good to go for today. Are you able to view it?
Can you tell me once again?
Yeah, sure. So you might have got an email, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so if you would have gotten, okay, I'll just ping this link in the chat, and you guys can just try it, hit that link,
Okay.
and then enter your credentials whatever you have set. Okay, please try to hit this link on your browser, and once you hit it, you please enter your credentials, and then please confirm if you are able to see this admin option. Like you should be landing over here, and you should be able to see something like this.
Yeah, I'm getting this screen, whatever you have now.
Yeah, so if you just go ahead and click on admin now.
Uh, I'm not able to see admin option. It just
Can you refresh or try it in an incognito window? Because I just made you. Pranjal, you are also not able to view that option.
I'm doing this in mobile. Anything is fine, or I need to do in.
I can't see the admin option, but
Okay,
I can see that Foursquare and my email ID and my OKTA ID.
okay. So you are saying that you're not able to view the admin option, is it?
No,
Okay. Are you trying it in your like you are trying to authenticate yourself using your Gmail, right?
yes,
And are you trying it in incognito window or like the same window?
no, in different window.
I mean, that's incognito because there could be some browser history due to which you are not able to view. So if it's an incognito window, then it will be good.
No,
For example, uh, Okay, so if you go over here in incognito, no, and if you go to this URL, then you should be logged in over here like this, and then like for me, I just sign in with Google. Once I'm signed in with Google, it will allow me to, enter into this page. And that's where I, get into. So is it the same page you guys also get into, or is it like a different page?
Yeah, same page. So
Same
like
page.
you also not having any admin option in the right corner.
That admin option will come from here. Like if you are able to get into this now, if you go to that, then if you are able to view this thing over here, then it's perfect. Like if you go to this four boxes and click on my end user dashboard.
Okay, let me sign out and try again.
Okay. So, like, I would request you guys to just bookmark this URL, because every day, like for next 10-15 days at least, we'll be using this URL on frequent basis. So, like just bookmark it so that, we are every time coming on the same page. Pranjal, did you try? Like, were you able to get into the application?
Yeah, I get it in the application, but I
Yeah.
couldn't see that admin option.
Are you able to see this screen?
Yeah, I'm able to see this screen,
On
what you
this
are
screen,
showing.
can you click on the four dots?
Yes, my end user dashboard.
You click on that.
Oh yes, now I can see the admin.
Perfect. And what about you, Sukanya?
Yeah, I'm also able to see now.
Okay, perfect, guys. So that's what, I just wanted to have your accounts created. Like, it's not necessary that we should have our accounts, on the same environment, but like since we are going to do the development activity over here in this environment, so you will be able to see whatever we are doing. And also, like once this account is deactivated, you can just, go ahead and create your own accounts and give me privileges. So that's how, like we can just extend this free trial lines. Otherwise, if every one of us creates our accounts today, so after 30 days none of us will have our account. So like that's why I just go bent ahead with this approach. So yeah, I mean, I think we are good for the day. We now from we are done with module one, and so probably next we are now going to talk specifically everything on Okta from tomorrow onwards. And since we have our accounts created, so we'll start off with some integrations in Okta, which is like application tabs, some SAML OIDC and secure web authentication integration. Once we are comfortable with that, we'll go ahead with the other topics. So if in case you guys have any doubts tomorrow, please let me know. We can start off with the class with those discussions, and then we'll take it forward from there. So yeah, I think I'm good for today, and we can
Okay.
proceed. Okay, guys, then thank you for your time today. Have a good one. Take care.
Thank you so much.